pleasure to be here addressing this elite audience. From the realm of economy, financial markets, currencies, commodities, we would like to transport you to a different realm of technology, the enabling technologies for the financial markets. I represent Chella Software. We are an 18-year-old company. We are specialized in the area of treasury management solutions and risk management solutions. We work with some of the leading corporates and institutions across the world, right from Keppel Corporation Singapore, Qatar Insurance, some of the biggest institutions in the country, some of the biggest corporates over here. We are happy to be a technology partner to Almus. We are also technology partners to a large number of corporates. We have some of our customers over here in the audience as well. Being a technology company, we are blessed with some of the few attributes which is extremely essential for coming out with products in the area of treasury and risk management, a highly pedigreed promoters, highly professional management, deep technical competency and deep domain competency. So we are also along with this streak of technology and domain competence, we have been very, very innovative. In fact, last year we have launched some very unique, innovative product for the corporates, which is basically India's first cloud-based treasury for treasury management. We are happy to state that we have got wide acceptance. We got a large number of corporates on board, and I would like to invite my colleague Kaushik, who is Director of Software Products, to take you through the entire products and what we have done for the markets. Kaushik is basically a chartered accountant with more than 20 years of experience. He has been associated with companies like Cognizant and as well as institutions like Bank of New York Mellon. He has been into enterprise software products creation. I now welcome Kaushik on board to take you further on Nimbus, our cloud-based treasury solution. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sriram. I have the unenviable task of keeping everybody from lunch, which I will try and do quite efficiently. I'd like to thank Almus for providing us this great opportunity. Last year, as Sriram mentioned, this time in the conference we had launched Nimbus Treasury, a unique cloud-based product for corporates, primarily focused on risk management. And since then we have gone from just being FX focused solution to becoming a full-fledged treasury management product, including things like trade finance, EDPMS, IDPMS, compliance, accounting, and the entire lot. So what we thought was in this course of this year, we have worked with a number of strategic accounts which have helped us build the product and shape them. And also we have interacted with scores and scores of corporates in India, trying to understand their processes and also the need with respect to technology. So what I'm going to do pretty quickly is just share our experience in terms of what we have seen with the corporates and with respect to technology. I would like to just draw your attention to last year's conference when Mr. G. Padmanabhan had listed down 5 things that are essential for corporates to reset their treasury. He had mentioned governance, culture, training, technology, and processes. And you can see that technology and processes play a pretty key role in making your treasuries more efficient. Now, but if you look at any treasurer's day, it's just so hectic that they hardly have any time for any of the change initiatives we don't implementing the system. They are expected to manage 4 pretty demanding entities. They look at the market, the management, the bankers, and the regulators. So you can kind of look at the amount of the hectic schedule that they have. And if you look at what the corporates have really equipped these treasurers with, it's really just spreadsheets. And more and more spreadsheets get added to their activities each day as they kind of tackle with their operations. So what I'm going to do is just quickly run through a bunch of case studies that we've seen based on the experience that we've had in the implementations to see how treasury management system can help. One of the common themes that we see with implementation is normally we go in, what is said is that, look, everything is in order, all we need is to replace Excel with a system. So that's how we normally get into it. But then nothing is further from truth when it comes to implementation of treasury management system. So here's one example. For example, we dealt with a large conglomerate which has presence in multiple countries. And if you go look at their process, the way they consolidate their exposure, they're a large importer. So the way they consolidate exposures is by getting this information on spreadsheets from the different business units. And at best, because of the kind of cumbersome nature of the way they compile this data, at best what they could do is probably get this exposure data once in a week or once in 2 weeks. And often they are not even able to verify if that data is correct. And we kind of went in, we implemented the Nimbus Treasury solution there. Today they are able to get daily exposures up to date, and that has kind of helped them fine-tune their hedge policies, which kind of gives them a much finer rate with respect to their positions. But more importantly, what was interesting is that because we do a thorough understanding or analysis of the process itself, we did realize, or the company did realize, that some key aspects of exposures themselves were being missed out when business units actually produce this information. And sometimes the exposures were being underreported up to the extent of about even 20%, 15-20% of the exposures were being underreported only because you're kind of relying on the business units to generate data from their SAP, and they have a particular understanding of what an exposure really means. In this case, for example, goods that were received into the port were never really considered as exposures, even though it was representing a certain obligation for you to hedge. Another example, in this case, an exporter. Again, they spent lots and lots of time compiling data from SAP in order to produce these exposures. The BigTat was implemented, integrated with SAP, and it's just replacing Excel with spreadsheet. But again, we could see cases of fairly large amount of exposures being underreported because there were issues with the way the data itself was being brought out of SAP. And a lot of times we just think that somebody relies on some spreadsheet and then they rely on another spreadsheet and then they rely on, and so on, and you don't even realize the layers of data spreadsheets that have been built up over a period of time, that the moment you implement a treasury management system, you kind of revisit the process, and suddenly there is a light bulb moment that goes on to see that certain critical exposures are being missed out in the process of risk management. Now, with the system in place, of course, you have daily exposures, you have real-time mark-to-market of your positions, and also a better way of monitoring your hedge performance. Another case that I just wanted to quickly present, this is a large exporter. You would think they were fairly automated. They were fairly savvy as a company with systems in place for hedge operations themselves. So you would think there is nothing much to improve there. But then in that case, again, they didn't have a seamless integration of their treasury management with their core operations themselves. And therefore, there was a lot of back and forth in terms of data that goes between these departments in order to consolidate exposures. Actually, if you look at it, the data is all centralized in your ERP. It's all about bringing that data in a meaningful manner so that your entire treasury operations could be automated just around that data. And in this case, what we have done is the whole of trade finance, EDPMS, IDPMS reporting that goes back to banks, the risk management part of it, which is the exposure monitoring, as well as the whole hedge performance aspect, could be automated. And now that has kind of yielded in significant time savings for the team itself, and more importantly, it is a reliable data that flows between these teams rather than scores and scores of spreadsheets and emails that kind of float around between these companies. this is another example. This is another classic example. A lot of exporters, especially if they are made to stock kind of exporters, rely on forecasted exposures as opposed to the actual committed orders itself, because they kind of have a fairly reasonable estimate of what the forecasts are. And similarly, we were kind of working with one of these exporters. The interesting part was because the lack of clear data from their ERP, they have been traditionally always relying on forecasted exposures for hedging purposes. And once we implemented the treasury system, they could streamline their operations with SAP, and they could do a more meaningful comparison of their forecasted exposures versus the actual committed orders that came in. And to their surprise, even they were some of the forecasts were off by even 20%. So in this case, technically they were over-reporting their exposures consistently for a long period of time, and they've generally been relying on forecasts, which kind of resulted in taking long-dated contracts and so on. Again, having the right systems will help you to kind of review your forecast versus actuals, and this kind of enable them to move into a more staggered hedging process as opposed to just a blind forecast-based hedging. They could kind of look at a portion of hedging that happened at the time of forecast, and then later on, once the committed orders came in or once the committed shipping happens. So they could kind of take a more staggered approach to hedging itself rather than a bullet hedging approach. Lastly, this is kind of fifth pattern. A lot of importers, they kind of hedge every single document, especially when they have a view of reducing their cost of premium itself. Here what happens is they have scores of transactions, and every single order or every single invoice needs to be hedged. And the moment they have a change in policy where they hedge at an LC or for an invoice, then they suddenly get into the struggle of maintaining multiple spreadsheets. In certain cases, we've even seen duplication of hedges. They end up hedging once and then they hedge it again at a different stage, only because they don't have an end-to-end view. Having a system enables you to have a complete end-to-end view of the hedge positions itself. Now, all of these cases that I've spoken about are all operational risks, really, as opposed to anything to do with FX risk. But then this is basic hygiene, and as we speak with corporates, we realize that it's actually the hygiene factor. As the topic suggests, in the world of global uncertainties, you can't have even exposures being uncertain. At least to that extent, you need to have something certain. So having a system helps you have the right data and the right operations and processes in place, and that kind of sets you up for certain interesting things that are coming up, and I listed a few. One of them is, as you all know, connectivity to venues like the CCIL platform or the FXL platform. Those days are pretty up soon, where we'll have to still be executing on the phones. It's likely that it's going to be electronic execution. Having systems, having a treasury management system enables you to connect up to venues and execute, and then the entire process gets completely straight through, as opposed to doing them with a lot of manual intervention. It allows you to give you a better performance measurement, both in terms of the timing of hedges, the attribution of your performance itself, and also having more meaningful benchmarks. A lot of times our benchmarks are very, very plain vanilla benchmark that we have today. So treasury systems will enable us to have better risk-adjusted benchmarks. The third step on the same path would be to allow for dynamic hedging. So internationally there is practice of dynamic hedging with the right kind of risk policy set, the stop loss triggers set, and ability to test for potential loss scenarios. Certain micro strategies can be executed by the systems themselves, or executed as being suggested by the systems themselves. So we are kind of looking at an era where dynamic hedge strategies can be adopted. And the fourth one is, of course, a long overdue connectivity between corporates and banks. Today, a lot of the communication that happens with banks and corporates are all pretty archaic, through letters and Excel sheets and so on. There has been certain activities that are going on. There are banks which have become a lot more open with APIs and so on. So that I was also looking at some exacting times where the communication that happens with banks are a lot more electronic, and having a treasury system enables you to be ready for that kind of a paradigm. Finally, I think any treasury management system, why Almus Treasury, it's uniquely modeled in a way that it's cloud-based, it's turnkey, and we kind of get the pricing that we do is fairly flexible. That it's a very simple subscription model that we are looking at. A lot of the implementations take no more than 4 to 8 weeks, and that really depends on the complexity of the processes. We are trying to bring that down even further as we kind of implement with multiple corporates. So it's fairly simple and pretty agile, given the nature of delivery that we do these corporates. So with that, I think I will rest. So we'll be around. So in case there are any questions, do feel free to tap us. Thank you very much.
And may I now request Maulik Sean to felicitate Mr. Kaushik. Post that, Maulik to brief about the CSR activity of Almus on the River March.